Hi, could everybody turn on their camera for a quick second so I can take attendance, please? Good morning. Okay, I see Lane, Jeff, Ethan. Ethan, can I see your face, please? Hello, good morning. Okay. Kaden, Justin, Nolan, Abby, Samantha, Ian, Hillary, Lauren, Jake, we're missing Sir Jonathan, and we're missing Mary Kate. And I got Maggie. All right. Good morning. So I just wanted to go over questions that you might have on the review. It was supposed to be due this morning, but I wanted to go over questions. If you haven't submitted it yet, that's okay, because I wanted to see if you have anything that you wanna ask. Give me 1 second.
Can we go over the last couple of problems on it?
Yeah, tell me which ones specifically.
The ones for 15 and 16.
Okay.
Just any of those.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is being a little slow this morning. Okay, gotcha. All right, so number 15. First of all, you are, sorry about that. You're looking for x, which is representing the distance from the center to the chord. And so first thing, we need to know that because 18 is the whole diameter, that means that our radius is going to be 9. And then 14 is the whole chord. And a radius or diameter perpendicular to a chord. So if I were to stretch this out, that would be a radius. A radius perpendicular to a chord bisects the chord. So we would know that that makes that part 7. So you're really just looking at this little right triangle. That was terrible. This little right triangle here. Okay, so that's a right angle, and you have 7 and you have 9, and you're looking for x. So you're just going to do the Pythagorean theorem, and you do 7 squared plus x squared is 9 squared, and work that out. Okay, and you'd be giving that to me as a simplified radical. So for all of these, unless it says to round it, you would be doing a simplified radical. Okay, if you have questions, just jump in and stop me along the way. All right, this one. So there's something that you have to kind of notice that I've actually given you the radius, which means I've given you segment PB also. So that means that this is 5. Sorry, this is 5. Okay, and then this segment is also a radius, which would make that 3. So we're going to look at this triangle here. And since that's a right triangle, you'll go do the Pythagorean theorem and figure out what that side is. And then whatever this is, again, because this radius is drawn perpendicular to a chord, it'll bisect the chord. So that means that these are both the same. So if you work that out, you'll figure out that x is 4, making AB equal to 8. Okay, the measure of arc BC is defined to be the same as the central angle measure here. So that makes that one 132. And then all the way around the circle is 360 degrees. So because these segments, these chords are congruent, the arc that's cut off by each of the chords is also congruent. So these two arcs will be the same as well. So basically, you're subtracting from 360 and dividing it by 2, right? Because you're looking for, those are the same thing. So it'd be 2x plus 132 equals 360. And solve that. Okay, and that would give you the measure of arc AC. Okay, and again, what you're using here is that in a circle, chords that are congruent cut off congruent arcs. All right, on this one's CA is 3, and we're trying to figure out, oh, I didn't tell you what, fine, XY. Okay, so we're looking for this whole chord length. Since CA is 3, and this is a diameter that's perpendicular to the chord, it makes this also 3, which makes that whole chord equal to 6. And then because these distances are the same, that means that the chords that are the same distance from the center will be congruent. So that means that XY is also 6. Okay, for this one, a radius would be segment CA. A chord would be segment DE. And you could also, if those points were labeled, you could also have given that segment right there. It's just that since there aren't points labeled, you wouldn't use that one, but that would also be a chord. A chord is always part of a secant. Okay, tangent would be line T. And remember, you don't name it line A because A is a point. Since there's not 2 points on the line, you'll just call it line T. A tangent is a line that is in the plane of the circle and hits it in exactly 1 point. And then lastly, a secant is a line that intersects the circle in 2 points. So the secant would be line L. Okay, any additional questions on those problems? If you want to go back to for 15 and 16, I'm looking at the homework that's due today.
Miss, can we do 11 and 12?
11 and 12, okay.
Or just
sure. Okay, so for the shaded segment, anytime that you're looking for that little, remember that a segment is the little chunk of the circle that's cut off by this chord right here. So anytime you're looking for that, what we're going to do is find the area of the triangle. And sorry, the area of a sector and subtract off the area of the triangle. So the sector is this part. Okay, and that would be 1/4 of the circle. So since that's 93/60ths of the area of the circle, that's 1/4 of pi times 64, or 16 pi, technically feet squared. Okay, and then the area of the triangle is that part in there. So the area of the triangle would be 1/2 base height. So since those are both radii, that's also 8. So 1/2 of 64. And that makes your answer. The sector is 16 pi minus the area of the triangle, which is 32 feet squared. For the next one, it's going to be the same idea, except that because that's a 45, these are both radii, so that's 9, which makes that one also 45. So that's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. It's going to tell you that that's 90, and then you can do this a similar thing because you have both radii here. So the area of the triangle is going to be 1/2 base height again. Okay, but that problem is very similar to the first one, so same exact process. Okay, for number 12, it's telling you that the segment is tangent to the circle. So that means that this will also be x because those are radii. And then because it's tangent, that makes that a right angle. So we can just do x squared plus 12 squared equals the quantity. This radius would be x plus 8. So the quantity x plus 8 squared. So x squared plus 144. What you have to be careful about on this one is remember that that quantity squared gets FOILed. So that would be x plus 8 times x plus 8. So x squared plus 16x plus 64. And it looks like it's going to be quadratic, but actually when you go to solve it, when you subtract off the x squared, it's going to disappear on both sides. So it's actually just a simple solve for x on that one. But the common mistake there would be students forgetting to square the quantity. And again, just stop me if you're needing me to slow down or go over something else again. Okay, tangent is asking you, is that a right angle? That was an if and only if theorem. So if a line's tangent to a circle, it creates a right angle at the point of tangency. And if you know that that's a right angle, if you know that it's tangent, it creates a right angle. And if it creates a right angle, then it's a tangent. So we're asking, is that angle right there a right angle, or is that a right triangle? So we would be checking if 8 squared plus 12 squared is equal to 22 squared, and work that out. And if it's yes, then it'd be tangent. I don't know the answer, but if yes, it would be tangent. And if no, then it's not. Okay, but some of these are really just Pythagorean theorem problems. It's just embedded in a circle. So you just have to know that it's a right triangle to be able to do Pythagorean theorem. All right, for perimeter, the segments that are tangent to the circle from the same point on the outside are congruent. So those two are the same, which means that's also x. And then these two will be the same, which means that's 7. And these two are the same, so that's 6. And these are the same, so that's 5. Well, since that one's 5, that means that this whole length being 13 is telling you that x is 8. And then you just add them all up. When I do perimeter on these, I'll usually just kind of do like 7 times 2 and 6 times 2 and 5 times 2 and then 8 times 2. Okay, so I'll just go like 16 plus 14 plus 12 plus 10. That way you don't accidentally, like there's not as many numbers to plug in your calculator when you're adding them up. So you could of course do 8 plus 8 plus 7 plus 7, but it's just quicker to add them little pieces together. Okay, and then this one is anytime a circle is inscribed in a semicircle. So here's the diameter here. Whenever the triangle is inscribed, that means its vertices are on the circle, but it's contained entirely in half the circle. So that means it's inscribed in a semicircle. It's a right triangle. So they're indirectly telling you that that's a right triangle. Okay, if that's a right triangle, that means that when you add those up, you're going to add up to 180. And then when you solve for x, you'll be able to plug it in, just plug it in here to find the measured angle t then. And you can double check yourself, plug it in for 2x also, and make sure that they all add up to 180. The other thing you could do, it's a little shorter if you just want to say that 2x plus 4x minus 6 equals 90. Because in a right triangle, the acute angles are complementary because you're taking away the 90 from the 180, so the leftover is 90. And then solve for x. Okay, any questions on 11 or 12 that you want me to explain or go back to? Oops, sorry about that. Okay, what other questions do you have? They can be specific questions or they can be general questions. And it doesn't have to be off of this review. If there were things on the other homeworks that you have questions about, we can go over those also. So this quiz is over 10, 6, 10, 7, and then circles. There was basically 5 assignments. It would be the 1 over 10, 6, the 1 over 10, 7. Remember, there were 2 assignments that went over the circles. There was like circles part 1 and circles part 2. And that was where a lot of these problems were. Okay. And then this review. So is there anything on this review? Anything else? Those are all similar. Like number 14, what's the rule you'd have to know to be able to do this one? So if we have a quadrilateral inscribed in a circle, what's the rule that you have to know to get your equations?
the opposite angles are congruent to each other.
They're not congruent.
Opposite angles are
Or they
supplementary.
add up supplementary.
They're
Yeah.
supplementary. So be careful about that because it's really easy to think they should be congruent, but they're all going to add to 180. Sorry, they're going to add to 360 because it's a quadrilateral. So the opposite ones have to add to 180. So you do 26y plus 2x equals 180. And I would probably simplify that and go ahead and divide everything by 2 just to make the numbers smaller. And then these two would add to 180. So 3x plus 21y equals 180. And I would simplify that, divide through by 3. And then you do elimination or substitution from there. But it'll make those numbers smaller if you simplify them along the way. You could just multiply this one by, like, for example, -3, and this one by 2, and do it that way. It's just that those numbers will be kind of large. Make sure when you're doing your substitution or elimination, if you simplify this, like that would be 13y plus x equals 90, and x plus 7y equals 60. For this one, you could just subtract this equation from the top one, but just make sure if you're going to multiply, like if you're going to multiply this one by -1, for example, make sure you do it on both sides. It's kind of easy to forget that it has to apply on the other side also. So some of the students will be working that out, and then they get stuck because they forgot to multiply that side, and so they still have this number over here, even though they changed what these numbers were. Okay. Are we okay with this type of problem? Any questions off of previous homework assignments that you want to ask me? Any general questions you want to ask me? Anything at all you want to ask me? How are we doing? So I posted in Schoology maybe yesterday, I'm not sure. We decided, because we pushed this quiz a day back, like back a day, we decided that this will be your last quiz before the very last one that you take for the quarter. So we originally had thought that we were going to give you a second, like another quiz the end of next week, and then a final quiz on the last week of the like following week, the last week of the quarter. But we decided that's not going to happen. So the last week of the quarter, the last, let me think, for you guys, I think it's Tuesday, May 12th, I believe. We'll have a quiz, and then our very last meeting, oh, sorry, I take that back. The Thursday the 14th will be our quiz day, and then the 15th is the last day that you meet all your classes on that day. So if there's an additional, like a second part to the quiz, if there's other stuff we want to quiz you on, it would continue that Friday. So we might make them like 2 short quizzes rather than 1 bigger quiz. But that quiz will focus on chapter 11, which is the next video lessons we're going to do is going to be about volume and surface area. So area of regular polygons, and then volume and surface area for 3D shapes. So your last quiz of the quarter will be Thursday, the last week, like not next week, but the week after. And it'll cover that chapter 11 material. And then we're also going to put some right triangle stuff on there. So predominantly, I'd say the 45, 90s and 30, 60, 90s, and then trigonometry, because those things are so important. We just want to make sure we kind of circle back and get that. Okay, so tomorrow will be your last quiz for, like, I don't know, they're kind of both, like, I guess the last one is your last quiz. But originally I had said that we were going to have a quiz over like kind of everything that we've done during e-learning, and that's not going to be the case. So we're just going to give you a quiz tomorrow over 10.6, 10.7 circles, and then we're going to give you a quiz in 2 weeks over chapter 11 and then some of the right triangle stuff. So you'll have a review for that, and you'll kind of see what types of stuff we'll ask you. We'll make sure we review on there the right triangle stuff that we would ask you to do. All right, any questions about tomorrow's quiz or other problems that you'd like me to do? I'm happy to work out any other problems that you might have on other homework assignments. Okay, like any of these problems, a lot of those are similar to the ones I just worked out with you. Does anybody want me to do an arc length or area of the sector problem? So on that last assignment, on the review assignment, it would be the stuff on page 1. Sorry, my notability is being kind of slow. When I'm hooked up to Zoom, my notability takes a little bit of time to load. Trying to go back to the answer key. Anybody want me to do a problem, any of the problems on page 1 of the quiz review? So you will be given the area of a sector formula and the arc length formula. Okay. Exact and simplified means you're going to leave pi in your answer. So don't round it off to a decimal, leave a number with pi in your answer. Make sure that you're giving the correct units on those. No other questions? All right, I'll post this answer key in Schoology, but if you have other questions before then, before tomorrow morning, let me know. We're going to do the quiz in Schoology, but we're going to do the same thing as we normally do, which is I'm going to have you join the Zoom meeting. I'll take attendance, and then I'll give you, I think I'm going to do a password for the Schoology quiz, and then let you work on that. So you're going to get an hour to work on it. They're all multiple choice. Or like matching. There's nothing where you have to like write out work, but you are going to want to write out so before you start the quiz, you want to make sure you have paper and something to write with and a calculator in front of you so that you can work out the problems and not be trying to do it in your head. Okay. So I think the problems are pretty straightforward. It's just you don't want to make goofy mistakes because you're trying to do too much in your head. So just make sure that tomorrow, when you're ready to start the quiz, you're going to need to be doing it during alpha. But when you're ready to start the quiz, just make sure you have paper and pencil and the calculator available so you can work those problems out. All right, if you don't have any additional questions, then you're free to go. I will stick around if anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.